With the first pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select Jaylen Brown from the University of California, Berkeley.
Perhaps a surprise to some, Jaylen Brown averaged nearly 15 points in his lone season for the sturdy goal.
So with the first pick in this 2016 redraft, the Sixers are going to select Jaylen Brown, who's not only proven that he's arguably the most talented player in this class, but he's also a proven winner. He's the 2024 Finals MVP. Of course, the Sixers, they originally took Ben Simmons, and at the end of the day, he had some talent, he had some good seasons, but he didn't last. And not only did he not last, he was just a player who was very hard to build around if you were trying to win, which is exactly what the Sixers were trying to do with this pick.
With the second pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Pascal Siakam from Douala, Cameroon, and New Mexico State University.
Can somebody tell
Deontay Davis is still left behind. Pascal Siakam is the 9th international player selected in the first round. That's a new record. He did play at New Mexico State, but as you heard the commissioner say, from Cameroon.
So at the second pick in the street draft, the Lakers are going to take Pascal Siakam, who was originally drafted by the Raptors late in the first round. And of course, the Lakers, they originally took Brandon Ingram, who didn't really blossom until he left the Lakers. And I think Siakam would probably end up with the same fate, being traded for Anthony Davis. But, you know, he would be even better for the Pelicans, as, you know, he's a guy who I think is easier to build around because he can do more things. So I definitely think this pick doesn't really change much, but, you know, it's still the better player, and especially, you know, when the AD trade.
With the third pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Domantas Sabonis from Kaunas, Lithuania, and Gonzaga University.
So the third pick, the Celtics are going to go with Domantas Sabonis. Of course, they can't take Brown since he's already been taken. You know, Sabonis, he's a very interesting player. He can, you know, rebound well. He can move the ball. His defense is a little questionable. You know, it was very hard to decide who they would take, but I do think having Sabonis' playmaking would help make up for the lack of the point guard that the, you know, playmaking point guard that the Celtics have had in recent years. You know, I think having Al Horford, you know, next to him and being able to possibly replace him at certain points, that would kind of help minimize his weaknesses. And of course, I think the Celtics system would just generally help him become a better player. But he's already a very good player and good pick.
With the fourth pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Phoenix Suns select Brandon Ingram from Duke University.
Ingram averaged better than 17 points per game, shot better than 40% from three for Mike Krzyzewski's Blue Devils, and according to ESPN Analytics.
So now at this fourth pick, the Suns are going to take Brandon Ingram. Originally, they took Dragon Bender, who's one of the biggest busts in really recent memory. So with Brandon Ingram, he hasn't quite lived up to the hype of a number 2 pick, but he's still a very good player. You know, he made the All-Star team in 2020. He's been a consistent 20-point-per-game scorer. I think, you know, just having him instead of Dragon Bender would make it a lot easier to build around Devin Booker. You know, maybe it makes a difference in the 2021 finals.
Fifth pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select DeJounte Murray from the University of Washington.
DeJounte Murray played a single season in Seattle for Lorenzo Romar, the second first-round pick to come from the Huskies tonight. Solid campaign statistically, didn't win as much as they would have liked. 16 points, averaged 6 rebounds, and about 4.5 assists per game.
So at the fifth pick, the Timberwolves are going to be taking DeJounte Murray. They originally took Chris Dunn, and in a way, DeJounte Murray has kind of developed into what the Timberwolves probably thought Chris Dunn was going to develop into. I mean, just Dunn's offensive potential never happens, but DeJounte Murray, you know, I think he's not the best offensive player, but considering the defense he provides, I think his offense is more than, you know, acceptable. He's made, you know, DeJounte Murray's made the All-Star team before. He's, you know, no scrub on offense and defense. He can really help next to all those guys.
With the sixth pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the New Orleans Pelicans select Simmons from Melbourne, Australia, and Louisiana State University.
A sizable Sixers contingent on hand to celebrate this pick. Ben Simmons from Australia. At various points in his career, he's been compared in terms of skills to a LeBron James type of players. You see Johnny Jones is coached for one.
So at the 6th pick, the Pelicans are going to go with Ben Simmons. They originally took Buddy Hield, who they eventually just went on to trade for DeMarcus Cousins. And I think Ben Simmons, he still gets traded for DeMarcus Cousins, but considering Ben Simmons was better than Buddy Hield at first, at least at worst in terms of potential, they might not have to give up as much, which, would help them in the long term. And then Ben Simmons on the Kings would be bad.
With the 7th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Jamal Murray from Kitchener, Canada, and the University of Kentucky.
There's John Calipari, who has another lottery pick, this one being Jamal Murray, who averaged 20 points per game, another player with an international background who grew up in Canada, played a year for the Wildcats. Calipari saying all day today that he believes that Murray will lead all rookies in scoring next year.
So, nothing changes here. Jamal Murray, he's very talented, but injuries are really the reason why I don't think he jumped up in the draft higher than his 7th pick currently. But also, the Nuggets, they won a championship with this guy as a second option. They can't stray away from this pick, realistically speaking. And it doesn't even make any sense. He's clearly one of the most talented guys here. And if it wasn't for all his injury concerns.
The 8th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select
Malcolm Brogdon from the University of Virginia.
Class guy, tough guy, first-team All-American, averaged 18 points per game. Everything you want in a young man, you'll find in Malcolm Brogdon.
So originally, this pick was traded to the Suns for Marquise Chris, who was just bad. And now the Kings are going to keep this pick instead, and they're going to draft Malcolm Brogdon, who was the Rookie of the Year in this class at first. He got off to a guns-blazing start, and he was very consistent throughout his career. The only downside is he retired. He retired this preseason, but still, he managed to have, 6th Man of the Year, very consistent production throughout his, now we know limited career, but I still think he's a guy worth taking in the top 10, and the Kings, they just desperately need talent, so it makes sense for them to want to get him.
With the 9th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Buddy Hield from Freeport, Bahamas, and the University of Oklahoma.
You saw the shirt in the crowd. Probably the only thing you can say right now is Boomer. There's Buddy Hield, the Oklahoma star, led the Sooners to the Final Four, averaged 25 points per game, put on shooting displays night after night.
So, with the 9th pick, the Raptors are going to go with Buddy Hield. They originally took Jakob Poeltl, who they traded for Kawhi Leonard, who got them a championship. But, by the time Kawhi was traded, Buddy Hield definitely had more value than Jakob Poeltl. It was basically a joke that he was just a throw-in. The main piece was DeMar DeRozan. Buddy Hield would be a much better young piece to build around.
With the 10th pick in the 2016 NBA Draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Karis LeVert from the University of Michigan.
Karis LeVert has spent much of the last 2 seasons injured. He's had 3 surgeries in less than 2 years on a foot. His most recent one came in March at the Hospital for Special Surgery in New York, and they believe that perhaps the problems with his foot that kept him out of so many games when he was playing for Michigan might now be taken care of.
So, to wrap things up, the Milwaukee Bucks, who originally took Thon Maker with the 10th overall pick, and of course we know Thon Maker, he's basically just a meme for Kevin Garnett calling him a future MVP candidate, and now he's out of the league. They're instead going to take Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert was the first draft pick of Nets GM Sean Marks, and he was a really good stud to get in the draft. If it wasn't for injuries, he'd probably be even higher.